Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maura and I'm a physical therapist and yoga teacher. Today I'll be sharing a short yoga practice focusing on ankle flexibility and mobility. Ankles are often forgotten about until there's a problem. The motions of the ankle are dorsiflexion, pulling the toes toward you, plantar flexion, pointing the foot, inversion, turning the toes in, eversion, turning the toes out, and then some rotation that can occur between the bottom of the tibia and the talus at the ankle joint. So there's a lot going on here in this joint. Due to injury, lack of activity, or simply lack of specific mobility exercises, some of these movements can become restricted. And when ankle mobility becomes restricted, it affects how our body moves and can place us at risk for injuries even further up the chain, like at the knee or the hip, and it can even affect our balance. Obviously, the poses today do have other benefits, but for this practice, I'll be calling attention to the benefits for the foot and ankle. As always, please make sure that it's safe for you to be practicing yoga, and always listen to your body. Never force yourself into a pose that doesn't work for you. I recommend having a couple of yoga blocks near you, a strap, a yoga strap or something similar, and maybe even a blanket to create some additional space or give you some padding for your knees. And I'll link what I'm using in the description box below so that you can check that out. So let's get into it. Excuse my notes. I just want to make sure that I cover everything that I wanted to cover in this practice today. So coming into a seated position with your legs out in front of you, staff pose. If you have tightness in the hamstrings, you can roll up a blanket and place it under the knees, or you can place a block or a blanket underneath the hips to elevate. Sit up nice and tall and place your hands just behind you, and then let's just start with some range of motion at the ankle. So go ahead and inhale and pull those toes and that foot toward you. And then as you exhale, we're going to point the feet. So just connecting your breath to the movement. And we'll do this about 5 times. Just notice how your ankles are feeling at the start of the practice today. Continue connecting with your breath. Notice if doing these motions is giving you any sensations anywhere else, like in the back of the thigh, the hip, or the lower back. And then relax the feet. And in this same position, we're going to just turn the soles of the feet together and make sure that your legs are not trying to help you with these movements, really just whatever you can do at the foot and ankle. And then rotate the soles of the feet out. So now we're going into some inversion and eversion. And continue breathing with these movements here. Really make them mindful. Try not to substitute with the legs. Let the foot and the ankle do all the work. Good, relax. Okay, so now take a hold of your strap and you can tuck the left leg in if that's more comfortable for you. We're gonna use the strap to do some stretching. So place it on the sole of the foot around where the ball of the foot is. We're gonna take an inhale and then a deep exhale as you pull the foot toward you. And we'll take about 5 breaths here. And release the strap gently. And go ahead and switch your legs if you took that option. And on the left foot, place the strap in the sole of the foot just below the ball of the foot. And take a deep inhale, and then on your exhale, relax the leg. Try to pull the foot towards you, but make it passive. So your arms are doing the work. Your foot isn't actively trying to pull back. And release the strap. And go ahead and move your strap over to the side. And we're going to come up on hands and knees in a tabletop position. So hands are going to be under the shoulders and knees are going to be under the hips. And you're going to take your right leg and bring it out to the side. And then you're going to try and rotate the sole of the foot so that it's flush with the floor. And this can be difficult if you're lacking inversion of the ankle, so just go as far as you can, don't cause any pain. And if you'd like to bring some movement here, you can sit your hips back slightly. You might feel some pulling in the adductors of the thigh, but try to keep your foot in full contact with the floor here so that we're focusing on ankle flexibility. Release that right leg back in. Maybe shake your hips out a little, give your left side a break. And we'll do the same thing on the other side, bringing the left leg out to the side and then turning the toes and the sole of the foot so that it's flush with the floor. And then if you'd like to shift back, rocking back and forth, if that feels good, go ahead and do that. Release the left leg back in. So in this position, we're going to come into toe squat, which can be pretty intense, but there are a lot of ways that we can modify the pose so that it feels good for whatever your range of motion is. Toe squat is great for improving range of motion at the big toe, which is also a restricted area. So from tabletop, you're going to tuck your toes and see if you can then sit back on the heels. Now this is where it gets intense. So if this feels okay, you can stay here. Or if you feel like you need a little bit of space, go ahead and stack up a couple of blocks, maybe 2 or 3. You can even sit in a chair and have your leg off to the side to do this if you have some range of motion restrictions in your toe. This also stretches some of the intrinsic muscles of the foot. But now the blocks lift me up a couple of inches and it takes some of the pressure off. I'm especially tight on my right side. I had an injury to my toe a couple of months ago and it's almost better. So we'll just take 5 deep breaths once you find your comfortable variation. And if 5 breaths is too much for you today, then just do what you can, no big deal. Not everybody likes every pose. And when you're ready, shift your weight forward, come back to tabletop, and just gently release those toes. Maybe shake them out on the mat a little. My right toe is happy that we're done with that pose for sure. All right, move your props to the side, and we're gonna come into downward facing dog. So move your hands about a palm print forward from your tabletop, tuck the toes, and then send the hips up and back. Now in downward facing dog, if the hamstrings are tight, that can really limit our ability to get the heels to the ground. So today, because we're focusing on the foot and ankle, we're going to go ahead and deeply bend those knees so that we can get some more stretching in the foot and ankle. You can stay here or pedaling out the feet, shifting the weight from side to side, gives you a nice calf stretch here. Just notice how your ankles are feeling, if they feel like they're starting to open up a bit. And then bring the knees back down to the mat. We're going to be doing a variation of low lunge. So if you'd like to grab some padding for your knees, go ahead and prepare that now. I'm going to use some blocks for low lunge today because it is a variation where we're going to be shifting the knee a little bit forward on the foot, which is usually not advised, especially for a low lunge where your arms are overhead and it's very active and you're using your muscles. But because we're using this for flexibility, our weight is going to be through our hands, and so we can safely go ahead and work in those ranges. So from your tabletop position, place your hands on the floor or on blocks, and you're going to bring your right foot forward. The back toes can be tucked or untucked to your comfort. And then, like I said here, normally, I'll move this back so you can see, normally we encourage the knee to be stacked over the ankle so that your weight can be better distributed around the joints. But there are actually, and you hear this in fitness too, but there are actually a lot of functional movements that require the knee to translate forward in order to be optimally balanced. And so if we never work on that, that's not setting us up for success for those other functional movements. So here, I'm gonna put a lot of my weight through my arms. So it's not all going through my knee. And the important part is to keep the heel on the floor. So if you're very tight and the heel starts coming up, then that's really no benefit for you, and you're going to set yourself up for injury. So only translate the knee forward as far as you can go comfortably while keeping the heel on the floor. And you can stay still here, or you can rock the body back and forth, almost using it like an ankle mobilization. You also do get some stretching in the left hip flexors with this. But I really like the blocks here because it helps create some extra space and lets me support my body weight with my hands. Shift your weight back. And we're going to tuck the back toes and step the back foot up to meet the front. So now we're in a forward fold. And we're going to heel toe the feet out towards the edge of the mat, turning the toes out slightly and the heels in. Now we're coming into Malasana, or yogi squat, which requires a lot of range of motion, but we can also vary this pose so we can work our way into it. So I'm going to stack up a couple of blocks and then sink the hips down onto the blocks. Now I can't go all the way down properly without using the blocks here. So for me, one block is good, but 2 blocks or 3 blocks may be a good starting point. So in this pose here, you want to really make sure that the heels are staying on the ground and the foot is flat. Then from there, take the elbows and they'll be on the insides of the knees. Bring the palms together and really try to upright the spine and lift the crown of the head tall. So we don't want any rounding in the back here because that's not going to feel good for the lower back or the hips. So that's where having multiple blocks comes in. The blocks are really in our practice to help us, and every variation has a different sensation because we all have different anatomy. So we should be trying to see how we can make poses fit us instead of making us fit poses. And take your left hand down and your right arm up, Malasana twist. Keep connecting to your breath and keep the heels down on the mat. Release the twist. Let's do the opposite side. Right hand down, left arm up. Keep the spine nice and tall. Keep the heels down. And also watch that the knees are not trying to collapse inward in an attempt to gain some range of motion here. Release. And now bring yourself back up. Heel toe your feet in. So now we're in a forward fold again. And we're going to step back with the right leg and get into that low lunge on the left side. So step back with the right and then bring the knee down to the ground. You may need to heel toe your left foot forward and then shift your weight forward as comfortably as you can. Don't cause any pain here, and then really use the blocks to support your weight so that you can keep the spine upright. And try and press that knee a little further forward. Being mindful of how your back knee feels as well here. My knee's holding me back a little bit in this pose. Shift your weight back. Bring the left foot to meet the right. Move your props out of the way, and we'll press back up again to downward facing dog. Notice how the ankles feel now compared to when you first started the practice today. And continue pedaling the feet if that feels good, or you can try to bring the heels to the floor and straighten your legs if you feel ready to do that. Exhale the knees to the ground, untuck the toes, sit back, child's pose, 5 deep breaths. When you're ready, lift the head, shift the weight forward, and come into a seated position. We'll take one last deep inhale and exhale here as we close our quick practice today. Inhaling the arms overhead. Exhale, release. Thank you so much for joining me for this quick ankle flexibility and mobility practice today. Flexibility does take time, so return to this practice or incorporate other forms of stretching and mobility into your fitness routine to see results. Let me know in the comments below how this practice went for you and if you have any requests for other body part specific focused practices. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more yoga, fitness, and injury prevention content. See you next time.